Welcome to the 100th episode of the T Rose Show. This is your host, Keith. I got John with me.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're here again.
We're here again. Today, I believe we have some subject matter that is worthy of the 100th show. We do have a update on Jeff. They dismissed the case for lack of due process. As Jeff Thompson, that was one of the guys that we were covering when we had videos of the court. And the funny thing is, when he showed up, they had a thing: no cameras, no this, no that, and everybody was had a wand on them. They're trying to keep the recording devices out of the courtroom. But of course, he had bonded out, so they had to get a piece of that. So they found him guilty on no driver's license or something like that. And then he says, well, how can you do that when there was no due process in the other? It was just all messed up. But they we always like to do is at least let them walk away with some dignity, because we're going to show you today the very essence of what you're dealing with in this country. And we're going to prove it. Okay, like we always do, we're going to prove it. So I do want to share with everybody like the first 10 minutes here, just to get you an idea of what we're dealing with in this country and why a man would walk into a synagogue and shoot Jewish people. Let's get into that part just for a second. Okay, there's a certain group of people in this country. I've encountered a few of them here and there that are very radical in a scary way because they hide it. They're not very open about it. They're a group of people that believe that they're Christians, but ignore all Christian values of the church itself, as everybody knows Christians. And what they believe is that the U.S. Constitution was divinely inspired, that the District of Columbia belongs to Christians. That's what they believe. And they believe that evil people have come in and have taken over the District of Columbia, and that when Jesus returns, they're going to have their constitutional republic. So the thinking is a little bit different than what people are normally used to. So what they're saying here is this: if you deny the U.S. Constitution and the flag, you're denying Jesus himself. And if you deny Jesus, then you're of the devil and you're evil. And since the Jews don't necessarily adhere to Jesus Christ, then they're of the devil. And they believe they're doing God's work. And they have inserted themselves into a lot of guru groups, and they manipulate the guru groups to become fanatical or radical. That's absolutely what happens. And so when they talk about, it's normally, they're right, it's normally white men that do it. And they're very far and few between, believe me. You may have 100 people that really love their country and are trying to find a way out of this, what they consider tyranny, which is, we're going to explain that here in a minute. But these people, these radicals, because they're actually, what happens is they snap out of, when they snap, then you get synagogue shooting, or something of that nature. You'll get shooting on the road. It'll come up to a firefight somewhere. And the other side is misinterpreting. They don't know the difference between somebody that loves their country and somebody that believes that the U.S. Constitution was divinely inspired, and believes that anybody that says no, it wasn't, or has anything. You could tell them that it was never passed. You could tell them that the Masons did it. You could tell them all this stuff. It doesn't get through. You could give them all the evidence in the world. It does not get through. That's called fanatic. That's called occult training. Okay, and a lot of this started in 1915 because it comes from when the Vatican changed the Bible and started teaching that Jesus was God himself on earth. Instead of saying the Son of God, or like, who was he praying to when he was on the cross? That kind of thing. He wasn't praying to himself. So obviously there was the only one that he was praying to. But they don't see that. Okay, just get in mind that they don't get that. If you deny it to them, if you deny the the Constitution, then you deny Jesus himself, and you're evil. You're of the devil. Okay, so that's how these guys believe. Now, what I want to do is start showing you some definitions like I always do, and we'll get going here. What I'm going to do is I want to start with the word offending, because I noticed that word comes up all the time. It's a cause to feel upset, annoyed, or resentful. That's one definition. He didn't smoke and smell of ash. He didn't smoke, and the smell of ash offended him. Okay, a small hardcore of young criminals who offend again and again. It's a commit an illegal act. But look at this right here. The word sin. It's synonymous with the word sin. Okay, so let's go over there. Transgressing a moral or divine law. See how things are starting to connect? You're starting to understand that these people, what you're dealing with is more of a religious divine people that believe they're doing God's work. Because they're doing God's work, they're more important than you are. Because you're not. Okay? In their eyes, you're not doing that. You're not doing God's work. So that's where the words offensive started coming from. You offended me. You offend this. You offend that. Islam uses it a lot to get politically politically further in their steps. But a lot of people have done that. And then you have those others that go completely opposite and say, well, religion has caused more wars and blah, 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 blah. No, not true. What has happened is you have people that believe they are more important than others because they are doing God's work in their mind. So therefore, you're offending them if you don't do exactly what they say, because they see God as a totalitarian. They see him as, if you do anything against him or whatever, they don't think about forgiveness or anything of that nature. That you have somehow offended him, and they're going to make you pay. We're going to punish you. This type of thing. It's the mindset. Okay, now let's go over here. What form of business organization do the Republican and Democratic National Parties take? All right, now I've been calling them 528 organizations, and I was wrong with one number. It's 527 organizations. Okay, so the national political parties are nonprofit corporations, exempt from taxes under IRS code as 527 organizations. And I don't know where I got 528, but I guess over time, 528 just kept coming to my mind. I don't know why. I'll have to go check that anyways and see why that kept coming to my mind. So what they are, they're just nonprofit corporations right here. National political parties are nonprofit corporations right there. So if you go to a 527 organization, you go over here, and what you're seeing is a political organization, taxable income defined, and then exempt function and all this other kind of stuff. It goes into deductions. And they exempt function income for the purpose of this subsection means any amount received as a contribution of money or other property, membership dues and membership fee and assessment from a member of a political organization. Okay, when you have membership dues, it means it's a private membership association. Proceeds from political fundraising or entertainment event, or proceeds from sale or political campaign materials which are not received in an ordinary course of any trade or business. Proceeds from the conducting of a bingo game. That's where bingo came in. Did anybody know that when they were playing bingo, they were actually working under the Republican or Democratic Party? I don't think so. The extent of such amount is segregated for use only for exemption function of a political organization. Okay, so what we're seeing is private organizations. So political parties are not inherently private organizations, because when people come together under their social compact and then they start writing their constitution, their social compact basically creates and publicly a political party. Social compact agreements are not private agreements. That's how the public is going to do business. How everybody's going to do business with each other in public. And this is what we all agree upon. So if that's the case, you get a 527 organization, Republican and Democratic Party, they're private organizations. How do private organizations take over the District of Columbia? I say they don't. Okay, and I'm gonna show you that. Okay, so here's what I'm saying to everybody. If you have a 527 organization, it's a private organization. How in the hell can a private organization sign a treaty? They can't. Private membership associations cannot sign treaties because there's always something else. They have to have an actual political party, not one that's listed under a 527. Now, what treaty am I talking about? Okay, let's go over here and let's look at the Bar Treaty of 1947. That was done by the American Bar Association. The American Bar Association is a private membership association. You do have to have a membership a card. They call it a bar card. You have to have a member. You can't, and not anybody can join. So it's not a public organization. People can't just walk in and get a bar card. It doesn't work that way. You have to have certain qualifications, then you have membership and all these type of things. So it's still a private organization. The Lawyers Guild is also a private organization, privately done, and they're all protected under the First and 14th Amendment. Every one of these organizations are, to their company. So the company protects them under those two amendments that they've got. Okay, now let's move on to a political party. Let's just describe what totalitarianism first. Okay, totalitarianism refers to an authoritarian political system or a state that regulates and controls nearly every aspect of the public and private sectors. Sound familiar, folks? Totalitarian regimes establish a complete political and social and cultural control over their subjects and are usually headed by a charismatic leader. Oops. That doesn't mean anything as far as, that doesn't mean Trump. That also could mean Barry Soetoro. He was charismatic. In general, totalitarianism involves a single mass party, typically led by a dictator, in an attempt to mobilize the entire population in support of the official state ideology. Notice that the SPLC always uses that term, ideology. That's self-projection there, by the way. An intolerance of activities which are not directed towards the goals of the state, usually entailing repression and state control of business, labor unions, churches, and political parties. There's your 501c3. There's your 527. All businesses have to be licensed. All labor unions are regulated, even though they're independent unions. A totalitarian regime is essentially a modern form of authoritarian state. If you offend us, if you make us angry, we're going to make you pay. because offending somebody could be making you angry. So if you make them angry, we're going to make you pay. And since they're under divine authority, any challenge to that authority is met with offense and anger towards you, and we're going to make you pay. You don't necessarily have to hurt anybody. You don't have to commit any kind of physical assault or anything like that. You could just be not dealing with an administrative process. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get a license under your God, so I've offended you. I offended your God, so therefore you have the right to beat the crap out of me. That's what they're doing. See how this is playing along? I don't mean that as you have that right. That's sarcasm. Requiring, as it does, an advanced technology of social control. What's that? Political correctness, social control. We're going to tell you how to feel about a certain group of people. We're going to, I mean, this is what everybody experiences, because you'll know a man by his works. This is how everybody, you can't say certain things. That's not politically correct. You can't call somebody retarded. You have to call them physically handicapped, mentally challenged. Okay? That's called politically correct. He's mentally challenged. No, in my day, it was you're retarded. That's how retarded means, that you're held back. You're you're not in full function. That's all that means. You could call brakes on a car retarded. That's what retards the vehicle from going so fast. That's what it really means. But they turned it into an offense that angers you. An offense, an offense. This is how you turn a people into a totalitarian regime, because the people begin to parrot what they hear every day. Totalitarian regimes or movements tend to offer the prospect of a glorious yet imaginary future. 31 trillion in debt, 100 trillion in debt with state and local. But you have more jobs. We're going to cut taxes. We got a great future. You can't with all that debt. Glorious yet imaginary future to a frustrated population. People are just frustrated all day long. And to portray Western democracies and their values as decadent, with people too soft, too pleasure-loving, and too selfish to sacrifice for the higher cause. How many times on the news do you sit and watch somebody walking around with a big old pot belly and talk about overweight people? To the men, they do the pot belly. To the women, they do the white ass. They always show the white ass on the news, and a men pot belly every single time. And they always have like a, I don't know, some kind of uh, uh, ice cream or crap they're eating. And they do that. You're too selfish to sacrifice for a higher cause. You suck. That kind of thing. They maintain themselves in political power by various means, including secret police, propaganda disseminated through the state-controlled mass media. Hello, state-controlled mass media. 6 corporations running the state-controlled mass media. Personality cults. Oh, those people are sovereign citizens. They believe in it. This guy's a constitutionalist. Oh, these people over here, they're racist. Oh, those people over there are this. Those people over there are that. The regulation and restriction of free speech, single-party states. Well, when you have 2 organizations that are 527 organizations and they're both 527 organizations, you have one organization. That's pretty much it. The use of mass surveillance. Uh-oh. What do we got here? Mass surveillance. Everybody knows that. You'll know a man by his works. There it is, mass surveillance. And a widespread use of intimidation and terror tactics. If you say anything against them, if you say anything against that Constitution, you're of the devil. You've offended us, so we're going to make you pay. Totalitarianism is not necessarily the same as a dictatorship or autocracy, which are primarily interested in their own survival and, as such, may allow for varying degrees of autonomy within civil society, religious institutions, and courts and the press. Okay? Home rule government, local government, home rule. You have a certain amount of autonomy, but you better not step over those lines. You step over those lines, we're going to get you. That's how they are. A totalitarian regime, on the other hand, requires no individual or institution is autonomous from the state's all-encompassing ideology. This is where it's headed. It's already there. It's just they're exercising it. People are not going along. However, in practice, totalitarianism and dictatorship often go hand in hand. So they're not necessarily dealing with a dictatorship. They're not really trying to do that. What they're trying to do is put in a totalitarian system, ism per se, which involves sin, offending. You've offended their God. Now, and we all know that the Illuminati deals with the Eye of Horus, and it also deals with Baphomet and all that. We know that. Okay, I don't really want to go into the does not necessarily align itself politically or other with the right or left, although most recognize totalitarianism regimes as being fascist or ultranationalist. Okay, so claiming a nationality does not mean that you're a nationalist or involved in nationalism. Okay, nationalism deals with the full encompassing power of the state and completely ignores religion. People can't worship or anything, they have to worship the state. Okay, so in today's world, you call it atheism. So just keep in mind that it says totalitarian twins has been used to link communism, fascism in that respect. Okay, so you have the fasci on both sides of the wall in Congress. So that's all there. All right. So if that's the case, what the hell's going on here? If a 527 organization, IRS organization, tax exempt, political organization that has membership dues and all this kind of crap cannot sign a treaty, who signed the bar treaty? That's the whole thing. Okay, and keep in mind that the same type of people will put this stuff in their codes: immigration, immigrant, membership in a totalitarian party. The term affiliate means organization which is related and or identified with a prescribed association or party, including any section, subsidiary, branch, or subdivision thereof, and such close association as to evidence an adherence and or furtherance of the purposes and objectives of such association or party, or as to indicate a working alliance to bring in fruition in the purposes and objectives of the prescribed association or party. Now, keep in mind, well, I'll get into that in a minute. An organization which gives loans or promises support, money, or other thing of value for any purpose to any prescribed association or party is presumed to be an affiliate of such association or party. But nothing contained in this paragraph shall be construed as an exclusive definition of the term affiliate. That makes sense? Giving loans to them? Huh. That sounds like what? You got 527 organizations. Technically, they're Republican and Democrat, and they have a republic. Let me show you what's going on behind the scenes here. We'll pull the curtain back here in a minute. Okay, so there's a waiver of ineligibilities of an immigrant visa applicant and is ineligible under INA, but is qualified to seek the benefits of INA. The consular office shall inform the alien of the procedure for applying to INS, Immigration Naturalization Service. For relief under the provision of law, a visa may not be issued to an alien until the consular office has received notification from INS of the approval of the alien's application. I could go into D, but man, this is I'll fall asleep. Okay, just sitting here reading this crap. In other words, what they're saying is nobody or no member of a totalitarian party can enter the United States. Now that sounds like something that a totalitarian party would write. if they wanted to hide the fact that they were a totalitarian party. I would. I would say, oh, we can't have that. No totalitarian parties there. So you're speaking out against it in public, say, and if you're speaking out against it, you can't possibly be the totalitarian party or be a part of it. So this is under Title 8. This is their stuff, guys. I'm just reading their crap. So just keep in mind. I read this back in 1995. Still did not really understand it until now. And I wanted to share that bit of understanding and epiphany with everyone here on the 100th broadcast of the T-Row Show. All right, the term totalitarian party means an organization which advocates the establishment in the United States of a totalitarian dictatorship or totalitarianism. Remember, I didn't say that they were actually going after a dictatorship because they got to tell the rest of the world that they're a democracy. Just keep that in mind. So they want to bring in what they call a totalitarianism, which describes everything that we talked about here in the first 3 or 4 paragraphs, okay? And refers to an authoritarian political system. So if you want to kind of hide that kind of thing, you'll put it in other areas, okay? Than you would, and you'll call it an ism right here. Now, in my opinion, when you've got a president that can write a bunch of executive orders constantly, kind of close to a dictatorship as far as I'm concerned. But, what do I know? The terms totalitarian dictatorship and totalitarianism mean and refer to the systems of government. Remember the word, the system, right here. Not representative in fact, which means nobody's voting anybody in. You're voting people into a 527 organization, which is Republican and Democrat. So if they're not representative in fact, this means that they're sitting behind the curtain. They're kind of in the shadows. They're not representative, but they're actually running things. Characterized by, this is number 1, the existence of a single political party organized on a dictatorial basis with so close an identity between such party and its policies and the governmental policies of the country in which it exists that the party and the government constitute an indistinguishable unit. And B, the forcible suppression of such of opposition to such party. I remember talking about the driver's license issue to a guy. It was a customer a long time ago. We're talking, years, probably 20 years ago. And I still remember this conversation. We were talking about the driver's license, and I didn't have a driver's license at the time. And he says, well, you just need to conform. That's what he's talking about. Now, conforming is dealing, that's not a sharing of individual ideas. That's nothing more than conforming. You're going to do what everybody else does or else. Okay, now they're putting people in 6 months in jail for not conforming. Okay, now I'm going to read this again because a lot of people want to hear that, and then it's like, what the hell does that mean? All right, the term totalitarian party means an organization which advocates the establishment in the United States of a totalitarian dictatorship or, specifically, totalitarianism. Now, keep in mind, they know communism and socialism is illegal here. Why? Because the totalitarian party said it was. But they didn't say totalitarianism, that specific term, was illegal. They just said a totalitarian dictatorship, a communist or socialist system was illegal. Keep in mind, the terms totalitarian dictatorship and totalitarianism mean and refer to systems of government, not representative in fact, characterized by the existence of a single political party organized on a dictatorial basis with so close an identity between such party and its policies and the governmental policies of the country in which it exists that the party and government constitute an indistinguishable unit. They're the same. Just simply means that if the totalitarian party has the same policies as the government that it exists in, it's the same thing. They're the same. That's all it means. The forcible suppression of opposition to such party. In other words, if you speak out against it, you've offended them. And if you offend them or anger them, then somehow in their minds, they have a right to come and plummet you, throw you in the mud, tase you, and all this other fun stuff. Now, how totalitarian are people? There's been a couple of murders. This guy was actually getting on the ground when the police were telling him to get on the ground, but they shot him anyways. Oh, I'm sorry, he didn't get there fast enough. Okay, that must have offended somebody. They didn't do what the police said, so that's a death offense. That's lack of due process. He didn't do exactly as fast enough. He may have been putting his hands up. He may have been getting on the ground, but he didn't do it fast enough. So therefore, and I've seen this in comments on YouTube, the people are actually saying, so he deserved what he got. Should have done what the cop said. He's just stupid. He got himself killed because he didn't do what the cops told him to fast enough. So that deserves a death sentence. No, what that does is that's lack of due process, and that's felony. If the man is getting on the ground, he's probably scared. And if he's scared, he's going to move real slow because his body's in shock. Fear does some weird things to people. So you got to take that into account when things like that are happening. A real non-totalitarian party, if they were actually not totalitarian, they would say, okay, what's this guy in? They would start asking around. They would hold him in an area, but they would start asking around. Is he on drugs? Has he got a mental deficiency? You know, what the hell's going on? Is there something wrong? Yeah, he's got his medicine. He needs his medicine. He's messed up, blah, blah, blah. And that's usually what happens. That's what's happening. There was one cop that did the right thing. He walked in. He saw this guy was on the couch. The guy was all freaked out and everything else. And all he did was just take his time. Within 20 minutes, the guy was completely cooperative with him, calmed him down, got him to the hospital so he can get his meds, and nobody had to die. Okay, so this is what you're dealing with is a totalitarian party within this country, and I'm going to tell you the mindset and or the epiphany we got when I was looking at it, and I was like, here we go. I'll show you one more thing. Okay, now the American Bar Association is an association. They don't have the right to treaty. So how did they have a bar treaty of 1947? What's that all about? Where it spreads this private membership association out to every country on the American continent. Also gives them United Nations authority and all these kinds of things. Wonder what that's all about. Let's tell you what it's about. The Republican and Democratic Party did not sign this. Republicans and Democrats do not sign treaties because they don't have the authority to sign treaties. There's always been somebody behind the scenes signing treaties. You got your tripart state, which is the state of New Columbia, divided into three: City of London, Vatican City. And guess what? Those are totalitarians. That's who and what they are. They have their own totalitarian party. So look at it this way, folks. Change the way you think, and then you'll see this clearly. The totalitarian party is, number one, doing business as a 527 organization called Republicans and Democrats. The totalitarian party is also doing business as a private organization under the First and 14th Amendment, therefore obligating the president to protect them under the First and 14th Amendment. So you have the totalitarian party doing business as the American Bar Association, private membership association under the First and 14th Amendment. You also have the totalitarian party doing business as many things as municipalities, states within states, lowercase s state, totalitarian party, doing business as state of what? State of Florida, state of Georgia, state of Mississippi. state of Alabama, state of California, state of New York, lowercase s state. Those are states within states. Then you have others that believe that the Constitution was divinely inspired and belonged to the Christians, and all they're doing is they're helping the totalitarian party. Maybe not even consciously you're doing it. So I'm here to tell you that there are two political parties in this country. One is the North American National Party that was started by the people in social compact with the government of the United States of America. And we have no issues with other political parties coming in. It's just nobody else started one. They didn't start one that was anything else. Other national governments can start their, couple, 15 political parties. Who the hell cares? Nobody cares. If you got great ideas and they work, why not? And then you have the totalitarian party. It's not registered anywhere, folks. That makes it a political party. That political party can control 527 organizations, private companies, private membership associations, all those types of things. So this is what they call the military industrial complex. Okay, the military industrial complex is nothing more than a totalitarian party doing business as private membership associations all around the country. Don't believe me? Lawyers control what? Taxation. They control political parties. They control the president. They control Congress because they always have to go to them to ask for advice, getting advice from the totalitarian party. All right, like I said, and like we always do, you don't have to believe me. I just want you to hear it for yourself. Let me go ahead and I'll share this with sound.
Inadvertently gotten a sassy answer to that question from attorney Mark Koplik in its hidden camera video. Koplik explained to the representative of the phony African minister why he never worried about government subpoenas.
They don't send the lawyers to jail because we run the country.
You run the country?
Still do.
I love it.
Still do.
I should say some lawyers run the country.
So you are some of them? Two of them?
Yeah, a small amount.
We're still
yes.
members of a privileged class in this country.
So what does it mean you run the country? Means you...
We make the laws, and when we do so, we make them in a way that is advantageous to the lawyers.
Let's hear that again.
Inadvertently gotten a sassy answer to that question from attorney Mark Koplik in its hidden camera video. Koplik explained to the representative of the phony African minister why he never worried about government subpoenas.
They don't send the lawyers to jail because we run the country.
You run the country?
Still do.
I love it.
Still do.
I should say some lawyers run the country.
So you are some of them? Two of them?
Yeah, a small amount.
We're still
yes.
members of a privileged class in this country.
So what does it mean you run the country? Means you...
We make the laws, and when we do so, we make them in a way that is advantageous to the lawyers.
The existence of a single political party organized on a dictatorial basis, with so close an identity between such party and its policies and the governmental policies of the country in which it exists, that the party and the government constitute an indistinguishable unit and forcible suppression of such opposition to such party. Who sends out SWAT, folks? Who sends out the sheriff? Does the sheriff always have to go and see the county attorney? You can't even put evidence in the case unless it goes by the county, prosecutor's office. Nothing.
inadvertently gotten a sassy answer to that question from attorney Mark Koplik in its hidden camera video. Koplik explained to the representative of the phony African minister why he never worried about government subpoenas.
They don't send the lawyers to jail because we run the country.
Do you run?
And its policies and governmental policies of the country in which it exists.
Worried about government subpoenas.
They don't send the lawyers to jail because we run the country.
Do you run the country?
Still do.
I love it.
Still do.
Still do, still do. Not representative in fact.
I should say some lawyers run the country.
So you are some of them, two of them.
Yeah, a small amount.
We're still
but yes.
members of a privileged class in this country.
So how?
Privileged class means refer to systems of government not representative in fact. The Bar Treaty. How did the Bar Association sign the Bar Treaty? They didn't. It was the totalitarian party that signed it. That's organized on a dictatorial basis and is indistinguishable. They're the ones that came up with the policies, and they're an indistinguishable unit. Got some problems, folks. North American National Party is a republic form party, and it does not exist as a 527. You don't want more rights, you want equal rights. That's the only way you're going to win. Anybody got anything to say before we end this? Thank you for listening to the 100th broadcast of the T Row Show. We hope that you've enjoyed the 100 broadcasts that we've had so far. We do have some special editions that you might want to listen to, and we have 1 through 7 when it was the broadcast of the town of the Reign of the Heavens, which in fact is an actual town within the United States of America. What we would like to do, thought we were going to be able to go through some of the things that the government of the United States of America does. We'll show you a little bit behind the scenes. Probably going to be next week because the people that we needed to be on that program are dealing with some personal issues, so we couldn't get them on. However, that's it, folks. And if you can't see through that, then you might want to take a look at how you're thinking, that you might be a little bit radicalized. If you are thinking that the 1789 that was signed by Masons under a Masonic lodge on its way for the Pope and all these kinds of things, and you don't think the Pope is the Vicar of Christ, then you're kind of double-minded and got your head messed up. So you got to really think about it. That didn't start that way. Although the people that did start the Articles of Confederation and were of the original 13 colonies and 13 states, they did. So you need to stop associating yourself with those people. Okay, all you're doing is you're helping the totalitarian party, which is an actual political party. If it wasn't, it would not be in the books. Go further and further with what they're doing. They're only progressing or by progressives that help them. Whether you see yourself as a progressive or not, that's up to you. But you need to watch start doing some self-check actions and watch yourself as to the decisions you make and how you think and how you feel before you break and end up running into a synagogue shooting people, or running into a high school and shooting people, or a mall. Attacking civilians like that, that's the most cowardly act on the planet. Thanks for listening to the 100th broadcast of the T. Rowe Show. We'll see you next week.